Thank you all for attending today. Today we are getting our wisdom and inspiration from the founding of Liberia. So we'll begin with some power-up yoga with Dee Renee.
Peace, peace, peace. All right, hi guys. So I'll be sharing some yoga with you today. And the reason why I call it sharing is because I'm literally sharing my experience of yoga with you guys. So today we'll be using a chair. So if you have a chair, and specifically a chair that does not have arms would be great, but if you do, don't even worry about it. Do what you can, all right? So right now we're just gonna sit upright, relax your shoulders down. I want you to begin to close your eyes and come into the breathing through your nose. And just let it out your mouth. Do that once again. Breathe in through your nose. Let it out your mouth. Awesome. While you're in this very moment, set an intention for your practice today. Set an intention for your whole entire day, even this program. What would you like to get out of your experience? You can begin to flutter your eyes open. We're going to inhale, sweep the hands over the crown of the head, just take it up nice and high. Beautiful. With your left hand, bring it to the outside of the right of the chair. See if you can kind of grip that chair a little bit. With your right hand, all you're going to do is extend as high as you can and then go over towards the left side. You'll begin to stretch in that right side body. And the reason why we're holding on to the chair is so that we can just stay supported and not fall over. Good. And you can take your gaze up towards the flying hand. Awesome. Let's come up nice and tall. Take the other hand right back up. On your exhale, let's just take it to the other side. So right hand is coming down to grip the chair. Then go ahead and reach over towards that left side. Breathe. Beautiful. Let's come right back up. Sweep the arms up high over your head. Exhale, bring them down by your side. So we already stretched in our spine. Let's stretch in our neck a little bit. So I want you to bring this left ear over towards the left shoulder. You can stay just like this, or maybe you take that right hand out a little bit and kind of let it hang out. As you're dropping that ear over towards the shoulders, then you're relaxing your shoulders down. So a lot of times we tend to tense up, but we want to let go of the issues in our tissues. Good. And then go ahead and tuck that chin down. So as you stay exactly where you are, that ear over towards that left shoulder, you're just tucking the chin. If your arm begins to get restless, you can always drop it back down. It's completely up to you. Good. Let's bring that head right back up. Relax that right arm. Go ahead and take the head over towards the opposite side. So again, right ear towards right shoulder. Option to bring that left hand out. And just breathe right into that. Full inhale and exhale. Good. Bring the hand down, head right back up, nice and tall. Hope you guys are feeling good. Let's sweep the arms up high. Once again, I'm going to take that stretch that we already did. So let's take that right hand towards the left side of the chair. Go ahead and reach over. We're only here for a little bit. Get a nice stretch in our side body on the left side. You're breathing in through your nose and out. Beautiful. Just begin to come right back up. Continue to hold on to the chair. And I want you to take this left hand, bring it behind your seat. So you're twisting the body. You're going to see if you can reach that left hand over to the right side of the chair and offer yourself a twist. Taking a gaze to the back of the room. See if you can relax the shoulders down and breathe. Good. Let's just take that left hand right back up. Right hand follows. Good. Now left hand's coming to the right side of the chair. Go ahead and hold on to the chair. Right hand comes over towards the left side. So you want to make sure you're lengthening in the spine and the chest. Arm is reaching towards the left side of the room. Beautiful. As you just lift up through that arm, go ahead, take that right arm to the left side of the chair so you're twisting. As best as you can, take that gaze towards the back of the room. It's a good rinse of the spine, getting all the toxins out. And this is great to do, especially if you sit at a desk all day. These stretches will help you just to get your body right. Good. Let's take that right hand right back up. Left hand reaches as well. Good. And now we're just going to bring our hands to our knees. Good. And what we're going to do is a seated cat-cow. And I'm just going to turn this side. You stay where you are just so that you can see what I'm doing. All right. So we are going to begin to curve the spine. Bring your shoulders in and just allow yourself to take this punch. Just like that. You're tucking the chin. Use your inhale. Lift up through the chest. Roll the shoulders back. Crown of your head is lifting up. Good. Let's do it again. Go ahead and curve the spine. Tuck the chin. Good. Suck that navel in towards the spine. Inhale. Come right back up. Relax the shoulders. We'll do that one more time. Going down. Bring the shoulders down. Tuck the chin. Inhale, come up, nice proud chest. Chin's reaching up, you're smiling, you're feeling amazing. Good. So that was a seated cat-cow, another posture that you can do anytime during the day. Very next thing we're gonna do, hug that right knee in towards the body. Okay, now that you have done it, you can bring your hands to your shins, so right below the knee, and just go ahead and rotate through that ankle. This should feel really good, especially if you stand all day just to get some circulation in the ankle. All right, so we're going to try something a little tricky. I want you to continue to hold with your right hand. Just take the left hand out long. Yes, beautiful. And now we're going to challenge ourselves and see if we can take the right hand out long, and we're still holding that leg up. Not only are we holding that leg up, we're working in our core muscles. So if you hug the abdominal muscles in, you're doing really good. Now you can stay here, or maybe take it a little bit further and kick that leg out. And if this is too much, just take the hands right underneath the thigh. All right, those are your options. Good, let's bring it right back in, hug that knee in. Head should bring it in close towards the chest. Now I want you to hold on with your left hand. Take the right hand behind you so you're twisting behind you. So I'll turn to the side just to show you guys what it looks like, but you stay where you are. So I'm hugging this in like that, and I'm taking this right hand behind me. All right. Now if you want to go a little bit deeper than this, you can always extend that leg long and still twist. Who knew that doing chair yoga you could really get some nice intense stretches going, right? Let's just hug that right back in, bring the arm back in. Good, we're gonna take that to the opposite side. So if you need to, go ahead and just move the upper body a little bit as we prepare to do the next side. I hope you guys are feeling good. Let's hug that left knee in towards the body. As you're hugging it in, go ahead and rotate through the ankle. All right, let's take this right hand out to the right side. Hug that navel in. Now we'll take the left hand out. Ooh, we are working. All right, now you can stay right here, or maybe you extend that leg. Ooh. I'm shaking too as well. Go ahead and maybe bring that hand underneath for support. Hug that knee right back in. This is where we are. All we're going to do is now take that left hand behind you for a stretch. So I already showed you what it looks like from the side. So you have the visualization. Go ahead and maybe see if you can extend that leg long. Awesome. Hug everything in. You're just going to hug that knee right back in. Bring it down. All right, so I'm going to turn to the side again. You guys stay where you are just for visualization purposes. I want you to extend your legs out a little bit further. Maybe move up just somewhat on your chair. You're still on the chair. Relax the feet down. Now all you're going to do is forward fold. All right, so you're getting a beautiful stretch in the spine coming down. One more breath. Slowly come right back up. I hope you guys are feeling good. We're going to do about 2 more stretches and then we'll move on to the next step, all right? So the next one we're going to do is Warrior 2, and you can do that in your chair, especially if you don't have any arms. If you have arms there, then I don't know, you might have to try and do it on another time, okay? So we're going to take this right leg and just bring it out to the side like that, right? And then the left leg, we're just going to kind of slide it back. So you might not see all of it. Here we go. So right knee is right over top of that ankle. Suck that navel in. Go ahead and T-shape your arms. We are in Warrior 2. All right, so you're already stretching. You're stretching all of this right here, and that's the good part of that. Now, as you're getting used to doing this, you can challenge yourself and maybe see if you can lift a little bit off of the chair. You don't have to today, but just as a challenge. Go ahead and turn the palm up and take the hand up towards the sky. Right back at your Warrior 2. Good, and then we're just going to take it to the opposite side. So you can kind of come right back in, bring that thigh. The thigh is mostly on the chair more than anything. You're going to straighten the other leg as best as you can. Now you can't see that part of me. There we go. Straightening that back leg as much as I can. And then I'm going to just T-shape my arms. Taking my gaze over my front middle finger. Good, you guys look amazing. Go ahead, flip that front palm, radiate, so you're just taking the hand up, getting a nice stretch going. Come right back to your Warrior 2. Good, and then we're just going to come right back out of that. The last pose we're going to do for today is Goddess pose. We'll do some stretches with that. So your purpose is to see if you can bring the knees out more. So maybe come and sit a little bit higher on the chair. Knees out, feet out. So your heels are coming in. You're actively pressing the knees back, all right? This is a Goddess pose. What I want you to do is bring the right hand to the inside of the right thigh and then send that shoulder down. Offer yourself this twist. Then come right back up. Okay, we're going to do the opposite side. So left hand just kind of comes inside of that thigh. And remember, you're just actively sending that knee away. And come on, bring that shoulder down, the left shoulder. Take your gaze towards the right. Good. Come right back up. Inhale, sweep the hands high over your head. Good. Look at our Goddess. Palms are coming to touch. As you bring the hands to your heart center, let's bring the knees right back in. Thank yourself for coming onto your yoga chair. And I appreciate your time today, sharing a little bit of power of yoga. Thank you so much. Namaste.
All right, namaste, everyone. Thank you again, Dee. I hope everyone took some mental notes. This is great for us as we're working via Zoom so often these days and sitting in a chair so often these days. So now we're going to hop into our next portion of the program. It's time for our lesson of the day. So we're going to be getting this lesson with Carolyn Singleton, a docent of the museum, on the founding of Liberia.
Thank you. And again, I'm Carolyn Singleton, a docent at the African American Museum. And I have to say that exercise, that was very good. I appreciated that. So we're going to start with the founding of Liberia, the lesson for today. And it's important to note that with this being Black August, this is the same month many, many years ago that Liberia was established. So let's get started. So we're starting with a picture of the flag of Liberia, and I'm looking to the left because on my screen, for some reason, it's to the left of me. But if you note the flag, the reason why I'm starting with that is because flags are always symbolic of the country. It's supposed to be a representation of a country. So we're starting with a flag that has a star, which represents Liberia being the first republic on the continent. And then we have the blue square, which is supposed to be representative of the continent of Africa. And then we have 11 stripes, which represent the number of signatories on the declaration for basically the Declaration of Independence for Liberia. All right, so we'll start with the year 1816. And this was the year that the American Colonization Society was formed in the United States. In the United States, there was a movement to resettle freeborn Blacks and freed slaves back in Africa. The members of the society included Quakers who believed that freeborn Blacks and freed slaves would face better chances of freedom in Africa, and also slaveholders who they didn't necessarily believe in freedom for Blacks, but they felt that if they were free, it was better to get them out of the country, get them someplace to avoid rebellions. And this newfound place, Liberia, would be such a place for repatriation. Okay, so here we have a picture of the map, and I have Liberia highlighted in green so you can see how small it is in comparison to the rest of the continent. Liberia, a country along the coast of Western Africa, bordered by Sierra Leone, Guinea, Ivory Coast, and the Atlantic Ocean. And if there's someone here who can speak French, if I didn't want to mess up, the pronunciation of Ivory Coast in French, so I let it be, or Portuguese. Can anyone pronounce that beautifully?
Côte d'Ivoire.
Who was that?
Michael Clemens.
Okay, say it again.
Côte d'Ivoire.
Côte d'Ivoire, also known as Ivory Coast. Thank you. Okay. It is the only Black state in Africa never subjected to colonial rule and is Africa's oldest republic. The capital city is Monrovia, named after the US President James Monroe. Liberia declared its independence on July 26, 1847. The US did not recognize Liberia's independence until February 5th of 1862 during the American Revolution. How many free Black settlers were on the first ship, which was the Mayflower of Liberia, also known as the Harriet, sailing to Liberia in 1820? We have four choices: 85, 201, 986, or 1,387. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, so 54% voted 201, 15%. I'm curious for the 200, well, the correct answer is 85. 201, a little larger, but I think the natural inclination may have been closer to 1,000 than 85, which is a very small number. So, so I want you to keep that number in mind as we move through, that there were only 85 people who started out. Okay, so getting back to the slide, Liberia declared its independence on July 26, 1847. The US didn't recognize Liberia's independence until February 5th, 1862, during the American Civil War. Between January 17, 1822 and the American Civil War, more than 15,000 freed and freeborn Black people who faced legislated limits in the US and 3,198 Afro-Caribbeans were relocated to the settlement. So we're talking roughly 18,000 plus or minus a few who were relocated during this period of about, we're talking about 40 years between 1822 and the Civil War. The settlers carried their culture and tradition with them. The Liberian Constitution and flag were modeled after those of the US. On January 3rd, 1848, Joseph Jenkins Roberts, a wealthy freeborn African-American from Virginia who settled in Liberia, was elected to Liberia's first president after the people proclaimed independence. Goals of the movement. Basically, we were talking about, going to a new place, leaving the United States, which still has slavery in place. Even if you were free, you still had limitations. So the goal was to find a place, a nice, safe place, far away from the US, where you could have equality, liberty, happiness, no oppression, no racism. Okay, question, how many free Blacks were in the US in 1830? Okay, can someone in the 40%, the 46%, give your thoughts to the 10,000?
I estimated it based on the number of northern states in some books that I've read where most of the free Blacks were, in which the city of Philadelphia was one of them. So I kind of put it that way because that was still the economy of America, that enslavement.
Okay, all right. Well, the correct answer, and that's a legitimate response, and I was a little surprised by the actual number myself. Who said 319,000? I don't want to pick on the correct answer person, but that's the correct answer. So if you want to stand up now and say how come 319, because that is the correct number.
I said that. This is Barbara.
Okay.
I said 319,000 because it just seemed logical. So I guess it was a lucky guess.
Okay. All right. Well, it was a good guess. All
Thank
right.
you.
You're welcome. So now let's get to, and the reason why that number is important because there were 85,000 people who went initially, 85 people who were on that initial ride. And when there were, so many free people in the United States during that period of time, even though it wasn't the same year, but still within that period. The same, a pretty large number, okay? So this is Joseph Jenkins Roberts. He was born March 15, 1809, passed away February 24th, 1876. And he was the first president of Liberia. And in terms of background, he was born in Virginia. His mother, she was considered, the term that was used, mulatto. And his father was actually Welsh. It said that his mother was his slave, his father's slave, but she was given freedom before Joseph Jenkins Roberts was born, so that he was born free. And she later married a Black man who was a wealthy person. And he is responsible for ensuring that Joseph Jenkins Roberts, grew up, with substantial means, and that he did learn a trade, very good trade, and he was able to make a good living. But again, he was limited because he was in the United States, even though he was a fair color, light skin, he still was designated as being a person of color because his mother was partially of African descent. So he ended up getting married at the age of 18. He joined the colony, the society. He was in Virginia, and when an opportunity posed itself for him to travel to Liberia, he did. And he took with him his wife, and he became he became the first president of Liberia. And again, there was a route that he traveled. First, he was sheriff, then he was vice governor, and then he became president. His family was very religious, and one of the goals that he had in going to Liberia was to evangelize. He lost his wife and first child right away because conditions were very harsh when they first got there. And the voyage, across the Atlantic, it in and of itself was very harsh. So again, once he got there, once he and his young family got there, she passed away, and his first child passed away shortly after that, but he did remarry. Okay, this is the president's house. I should say mansion, the president's White House. And as you can see, very palatial, very spacious. Okay, here's a picture, and I like this picture because this is a group of Americo-Liberians, and that was the phrase that was given to those that migrated back to Africa. And one of my questions to you, and this would be for anyone who wants to volunteer, what do you think would have been the thoughts of free people, free Blacks in the US, as far as going back to Africa, to this new place, which would be called Liberia?
There was conflicting thoughts because of who were the initiators of the whole American Colonization Society in relationship to that it was, as you mentioned, not necessarily the emphasis about Quakers, but plantation owners and others who were seeing it as a way to get rid of free Africans because of their threat to the enslaved population.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I can't see you, but thank you. And that's absolutely correct. Another point was that there were a lot of free Blacks here in the States who felt as though, why, I've been here for generations, my family has been here for generations, I'm free, I've spent my blood and sweat on American soil, why should I go to some far off place when America is my home? And we still hear that echoed, even now it was echoed in the 50s, 60s, and it's still echoed. And there were a lot of free people who actually said that they were no more African than the English, than Americans were British. And so that was the flip side of the coin. But again, on the other side, there was this hope and desire for this utopian society where you could be free to actually pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, what went right? So we have self-governance. You're back on the African continent, and I say back. When I say back, I should say you're on the African continent with your forefathers, where your forefathers came, away from racial hatred. You have the ability to create a new identity, and it was a home of their own. What went wrong? Okay, and I probably should have asked that question before I put this slide, because we could possibly anticipate some of the things that would have gone wrong. One, those coming from America, a couple of generations out from Africans being here, first coming here, they did not identify with the indigenous natives, okay? I mentioned two groups of people who were here, the crew who were there. The crew and the Grebo, who were, indigenous groups. And, there was tension, but there was also an attempt to Christianize, the indigenous groups. The cultural tradition infused with American notions of political republicanism and Protestant Christianity was there. And again, Liberia was modeled off of the political system in the United States. You had three branches of government, you had a presidency, even the Declaration, the Constitution mirrored the United States Constitution. So, and then the Protestant Christianity, many who went, one of the reasons why they went was to evangelize and to proselytize. Next, replicated the only society most of them knew, the racist culture of the American South. believe themselves different from and culturally and educationally superior to the indigenous people. And all of a sudden we have the creation of an elite minority. So we have here two society, and I put them up side by side so that you can compare and contrast, and just some thoughts, between the two pictures. What do you see? What comes to mind? Any volunteers would be appreciated.
Well, you definitely see the elitism immediately, I guess, or the image that I think people were, like you were just talking about. So if that was developed, and then you put these two pictures, one supposedly dressed more like the American South or America, and then the natives, it's the internalization of oppression.
Okay.
Internalize what oppressor does, and then we mock it.
Okay. Thank you. I can't see your face, but thank you. That was great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I also see in the indigenous group, they seem like they're whole and they have community around them and they have support, where on the other side, on the left, they just seem lonely and out there all by themselves. And they seem proud of it, but I see love and strength on the other side. I mean, it's just blaring to me.
On the left, I saw it, I just sensed sort of like a disconnectedness, like,
Absolutely.
Okay. Like, where are we? Who are we? And, struggling for identity. Where on the right, you have people, a group of people, they know their identity, they know who they are, and, it's embraced. All right, so now we have to ask the question, the newly freed slaves coming from America, are they the new colonizers now? Once they're in Liberia and they're setting up homes, you have the indigenous people, are they the new colonizers? So going through, I mentioned a book here that, would be interesting reading, Slaves to Racism, an Unbroken Chain from America to Liberia by Benjamin Dennis and Anita Dennis. And some of the things that they point out in their book, that the natives were viewed as inferior or a subservient class. The natives could not vote, they could not speak unless spoken to. The natives could not marry American Liberian women. They were excluded from government positions except for a token few. Indigenous tribesmen did not enjoy birthright citizenship in their own land until 1904. The missions and schools were set up to educate the indigenous peoples. So if that's not colonizing, I don't know what it is. Maybe someone else has a different view. Is there a different view out there other than what's proposed here? And again, this is the other side of the coin. Not to point a completely negative picture, because there's pros and cons, good and bad to everything. But this is sort of the underbelly of something that started out with positive goals, or people who were hopeful of creating something new. Any thoughts in terms of the America Liberians being the new colonizers?
Oh, this reminded me actually of a brief research project that I had to do, just connecting this experience to the experience in Haiti after the Haitian Revolution. I know James Fortin, Absalom Jones, Richard Allen, they came together and sent over about 100 African Americans to help rebuild the island, and it was considered to be a failure, but that was more so in white newspapers. So that's who's saying, whose perspective are we listening to? But it was so similar. It was the belief that we're going to come in and set up our own society, and that's what the Haitian leaders said, that couldn't happen. It's like, if you're going to come here to rebuild with us, you're going to be with us in culture as a people. So it just looks so similar, and the time period is similar as well.
Okay.
So,
Okay. What percentage of Liberians are comprised of descendants of American Liberians and Caribbean free slaves? And we can actually say currently, then as well as now. Someone in the majority was 38-38 for 12 and 48. So how about someone who said 69%?
Guessed.
I guess, okay.
Mhm.
How about someone who's in the 48%?
I'm in, can you hear me, Carolyn?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I say 48% because the president, the first woman president of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, was an Americo-Liberian.
Okay.
And so therefore, there were quite a few of them still there. That's what created that Civil War. So I was thinking 48, and then that was really kind of a guess.
Okay.
But I do know that it was still quite a bit of them there and identifying themselves as Americo-Liberians.
Okay. It's actually only 5%.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is really surprising to have so much power and be in such a small minority. And so, yeah, I was surprised by that because even though they comprise such a small percentage of the population, you know, they held on for pretty much 100% of the power, you know, until 1980 or so, when there was a coup. And so, yeah, it's 5%. So I have here this picture, you know, acknowledging the different indigenous groups which are in Liberia, 16 tribes and +1, and the +1 would be the those who immigrated from the U.S. and from the Caribbean islands as a separate group, and they're not here on this in this frame. Okay.
I'm sorry, Carolyn, one quick question.
Sure.
So you say those 16 ethnic groups were the Americo-Liberians?
No, the 16 groups are the indigenous groups separate and apart from those who migrated from the U.S. and from the Caribbean islands. Okay. So that's why I put 16 +1.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. Oh, I have a comment here, and I'm not to mention it, but it says, can we change the word tribe to ethnic group?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
That's why I refer to them ethnic. That's
okay.
We see them as ethnic groups.
Okay. And did I say tribes? Thank you. All right. So in conclusion, I have here a picture. It says, the love of liberty brought us here to the Republic of Liberia. And one of the thoughts or one of the things that I wanted to, you know, give you pause to think about, can you think of any circumstances where you would leave the U.S., and it's probably difficult because we're, you know, hundreds of years removed from slavery, but, you know, we're still facing the vestiges of slavery. So I'll still ask this question. Are there any circumstances under which you would be willing to leave the U.S. to migrate to a different country? I haven't
in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
In a heartbeat.
Okay, I don't know who's speaking because, like I said, okay, now I can see my view up here, and that was just a question that I wanted to throw out there. Someone said yes, his name is 45, and so and that's just something. And then, what challenges do you think you would pose? Would you be confronted with, and where would you go?
I would go to Ghana.
Mali is my choice.
Ghana.
And it's still the same cultural, you know, well, no, first the fear, personal fear.
Yes.
And then it's the cultural baggage that I bring and have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
And for me, Carolyn, I would start in Liberia because my mother's people are from Liberia, more specifically the Paley ethnic group. So I would start there, but I would want to go to Ghana. If I didn't love my family so much, I would move tomorrow.
Okay.
So I
All
would
right.
like to go back and forth. I would be here and, you know, on the continent. I would definitely leave in a heartbeat. If I could get them to go, that would be really a plus.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
I actually would choose to do a DNA test to help me choose. Oh, that's good.
Okay. All right. How many of you would be willing to give up your passport, to give up your citizenship, your U.S. citizenship?
I'm gone.
I couldn't. I couldn't only because of my daughter and family here. So I would like to have it like a dual citizenship where I can come here and see them because I love them. Unless I could convince them, as I said earlier, to come. But definitely, I would. I have to unload that baggage, as Richard said, and that was the problem with the Americo-Liberians, internalizing these European values and taking them to Africa and doing exactly those same things that you listed there, which caused the Civil War. So you're right. So you got to really check yourself if you're going to go there, and don't bring that type of baggage with you. And that takes time to take and understand that, because you internalize it and you see it reflected in the things you say and do. And sometimes you do it unconsciously because it's a part of who you are from indoctrination.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And I just have a statement.
Sure.
Colonization is all over the world, and those folk who don't look like us has colonized the world. So they have changed many of the minds of the leaders in Africa, and Africa is suffering really, really bad because of the fact that there's so many colonizers who came in for their own good and refuse to share the wealth with the African people. So I would have to put that on the shelf for now and just wait and see what the omnipotent creator needs to do to stabilize the huge problem that is working its way throughout the world and destroying it and destroying the people in it. Too much civil unrest around the world, and especially in Africa.
All right. Well, that concludes my presentation, and I really appreciated everybody's input and thoughts, because that makes the experience much more enjoyable and enlightening. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellent job.
Job.
Thank you. It's good.
Yes, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Carolyn. I love that opening dialogue at the end. I wrote the note for keeping this for future tours for sure. We're going to transition right into our next selection, which is Poetry Expressions with Shirmina Smith.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Shirmina Smith. I'm a poet from Philly. I'm also an activist, community activist, event curator, and a teaching artist for youth in my city. I'm so excited to do this for everyone. This is my first workshop via Zoom, my first workshop in a very long time. So we're gonna get started and talk about identity, transformation, and liberation. Liberia was founded in 1822. It was between the ACS, the American Colonization Society, Free Black Americans, and Liberia, which was also the Grain County of West Africa, where the Kru and Grebo ethnic tribes or ethnic groups were. And what happened, just to recap, the ACS resettled free Blacks to colonize what is now Liberia, establishing settlements, commerce, and later the independence from the US in 1847. From there, the free Blacks and their Americo-Liberian descendants led the Republic into an 1980 coup. Why did this happen? Because the ACS wanted to relocate free Blacks after emancipation. So there was a lot of changes of identity. We have enslaved Blacks or their descendants going from enslaved to free. We have African Americans going from African American to Americo-Liberian. We have what is West Coast, the West Coast of Africa, Sierra Leone, becoming a Liberia. So we're gonna talk about how can we, as people, Black people specifically, during this time period, can allow our liberation to change us, or allow our identity to grant us liberation. Now, this is what I want you guys to do. I want as many wacky, as much as you can come up with, things that are very personal to you that represent liberation. The sky, wealth, taking a dump, all those things can feel liberating and free. So whatever represents freedom and liberation and stepping outside your confines, whatever is chaining you, write all that down. I can give you guys about 20 seconds to do that.
Okay, my list is freedom to self-actualize, reparations for the 400 years of my ancestors who worked for free, health, and education.
I like that. I like the reparations part. Anyone else? So I wrote bird, wings, air, love, movement, dance, crying, financial freedom, excitement, honesty, and I also wrote reparations.
I have one.
Okay.
Retirement.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I love that. So no one else wants to share, we can go on to our next list. Mind you, keep these lists in your head because we're going to do something real fun with these. So we're going to brainstorm a list of things you identify as or with. Black, queer, Beyonce stan, anything that you present to the world as yourself, the way that you move about the world, the way that you allow other people to see you, whatever that is to you, write those things down. Okay. Does anyone want to read their list?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
A sense of freedom within, kindness, smiles, and love.
Love that. Sense of freedom and yes.
I'll share mine.
Yes.
I wrote down helpful, accomplished, curious, serious, funny, and caring.
Love that. Anyone else?
I wrote down that I identify as a Black woman, mom, and scholar activist.
I put down African.
Yeah.
Period.
Mine's faith, being authentic, love, freedom, and meditation.
So a big thing with the founding of Liberia was liberation. And through liberation, the people, everyone involved, the people of Liberia and the West Coast of Africa and the African Americans were changed greatly from this transformation and this relocation. So now thinking about the dreams that these enslaved Blacks or these free Blacks had of moving Africa, we're gonna take our ideas of liberation and our ideas of identity, and we're gonna mash them together a little bit. Okay, now this is where our imagination comes in. I want you to pick one thing from each list, one thing that represents liberation for you, and one thing you identify and personify a loving relationship between the two. Write a poem that talks about maybe their first date or even a marriage. So for example, two things on my list. One thing is movement for my representation of liberation. Then for my identity, I can choose goddess. How does goddess and movement of each other? How can that create liberation for me? How does that create a transformation to me? You can personify, they're at a table, at a dinner, or they're on their honeymoon after their wedding, whatever that looks like to you, have a little fun, personify them a little, so you guys can create an imagination and a dream of what this can look like for you.
I could start. I have a short poem.
Okay, yes, I'd love to hear it.
A sense of freedom within emanates out to all who are dancing and living about. Imagine a world of love where all can eat, love, and feel free.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for reading that. I can read mine. So I chose crying as my representation of liberation, and I chose Black as a part of my identity. Crying takes the Black in me on a date. They're both very nervous, a Romeo and Juliet type tragedy. Their families feuded, but here, my tears and my Black hold each other, and neither of them have to explain what's wrong. No one has to hide here. Here, crying softens my Black, and she melts into a pool of tar, hot and spilling, and it feels good. Anyone else want to get free? Some great things.
I'll go ahead. Sure.
Yes.
I'd love to. All right. So I chose Night Skies and Singing. And I did, as quiet as kept, the night sky sings. Comets harmonize as they pass each other. Colliding, dissonance. Asteroids land, clapping along to the rhythm of Saturn's rings.
Yes. Wow.
Nice.
Thank you.
So, how did it go? It may have been hard because I give a quote from Asada Shakur, freedom, you asking me about freedom? I'll be honest with you. I know a whole more about what freedom isn't than about what it is, because I've never been free. I can only share my vision with you of the future about what freedom is. So when I first did a workshop like this, writing about freedom and liberation, it is sometimes hard for marginalized groups and minorities, specifically Black people, to imagine what freedom is without the images already displayed first for us. We have to reimagine, we have to recreate, and we start from fresh a lot of times when we think about freedom and liberation and what that looks like for us. And a lot of times what freedom and liberation looks like for us emulates what it looks like for other people who aren't us. And it doesn't always fit us. So I want you guys to do this poem because I wanted you guys to create a fantastical imagination of what freedom and liberation would look like, because it is possible. And what they have been selling us about freedom and liberation cannot fill us. And we are so much bigger than what they have been selling us. So don't be afraid to use your imagination, because it all is possible. So back in your poem, just look back, and what ways did the things that represented your liberation and your identity cater to each other? How do they feed each other? Because we know in any relationship, there's an exchange of attention, exchange of time, energy, love. So when you put these two things in a relationship, what are these two things exchanging with each other? For example, in my poem, I have crying and my Blackness. And in the poem, crying allows Blackness to be vulnerable, gives Blackness a space to fall apart and be itself and dive into its own emotions, like we would need our own partners to do in a relationship. So does anyone have any examples of ways that the two things they chose kind of cater to each other?
The two things that I picked was freedom within and love. So learning to love yourself, which is sometimes a problem for many in a colonized country.
Another thing that crying and Blackness seen in each other in my poem was a visibility. And that is something a lot of us, especially Black people, especially Black women, have insecurities with, is being seen and feeling visible. So that was something that I added between my crying and my Blackness in my poem. do you think these things felt possible or impossible when you wrote these poems? I know these poems are personifications, so they're metaphors and things like that, but do these things feel possible? The things that you wrote?
Yes, I think so.
Mhm.
And I feel that since we will be the ancestors at some point, if we teach the young how to find themselves within the world, then that ancestral lineage will start to make changes. So that's how I see it.
I believe when we imagine things for our future, even if it's not possible in our lifetime, it can definitely be possible. And it starts with the imagination. There was one person who thought, wait, slavery cannot happen, you know? And it started movement after movement after movement. So imagination and using who you are and your place in the world and thinking of a new world within that place in your world is something beautiful, and it's something that we should continuously pass down. So thank you for that comment. Now, before we bring it on home, think about the sacrifices and what or who you left behind to be who you are now. The free Blacks in America left behind a whole world. Again, many of them. So yeah, it was a lot to leave behind and sacrifice for your own liberation. And I think that sometimes is a big problem with our community, because we're so afraid of losing, so we're so afraid of loss, we are not always willing to sacrifice in the small dosages, like not eating at a particular pace or not buying a certain brand. So in the small circumstances, or even in large circumstances, what have you sacrificed to transform your own identity and to give you liberation? It could be your boundaries. You changed up your boundaries. You sacrificed a particular person who didn't abide by those boundaries. You had to sacrifice something that didn't make you feel safe.
I'm gonna take a stab at this.
Okay.
I sacrificed my my person in order to construct my identity. I sacrificed my ego in order to be able to navigate my fears. I've sacrificed my will for acquisition of resources to be able to identify with those who may have no resources at all.
Right. That's powerful.
Yeah, it does. That's excellent.
That's powerful.
We make many sacrifices every day, specifically as Black people. And sometimes we don't even know what we're leaving behind, but we are always transforming and changing every day. So I just want us to be more cognizant of our little changes, of our little liberations, you know, because those feed our big liberations. That feeds the idea that we can accomplish the big things as well. So think of something small that you had to leave behind to transform yourself, or something that you sacrificed for your own liberation. For instance, something small I did. I gave up red meat and pork. Something small, something that you would think has nothing to do with the collective of Black Lives Matter and Black liberation. But it was my own personal sacrifice for my own health and my own comfortability. And that reflects it to other people in my community and allows me to do better work.
I think with me personally, I sacrificed a marriage to find myself. It was a huge sacrifice, especially when you have a child. But then you have to look at things and say, well, there's some things you do have to leave behind in order to find yourself, to be authentically you. And I've been a better person since that. It's a huge sacrifice, but it worked out in the end. But it had to be done. It had to be done.
Thank you. There's some baggage that don't match our shoes. Okay. And we gotta be at the door.
His is pointy toes and mine's is square toes.
Exactly.
It's right. Both our feet hurt.
Can't let that happen no more.
Hey, let it happen.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have sacrificed for a long time, not bending down and buying everything I see, which is where a lot of people who don't have, and as soon as they get the money, they go out and they overspend, and we're just fueling the economy for the rich. And I'm sorry to say, Amazon is one of them. And because anytime you can make $13 billion in one day, that's a problem. And I do know that people of color have a huge amount of money that push this economy, but then we don't get it back. So that's one of the big, is it a sacrifice? Yes, because they created the consumerism within us, and we have to get rid of the fact that we think we need everything to heal. All, the big car, the da, 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 and down the line, yeah.
Exactly. That brings us back to imagination and just reimagining the things that actually make us feel free. And we don't know the things that make us free if we don't know ourselves.
Exactly.
That's right. And that means being authentically you. You got to be authentic. Absolutely. Find your own center of who you are.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Okay. So yes, a new life is possible for all of us. Freeing yourself was one thing. Claiming ownership of that freed self was another. And that is one of my favorite Toni Morrison quotes, God rest her soul.
Yes.
We can actively free ourselves, but who is that free person now? And we have to think about that. We have to take those steps. But yes, like I was saying, we can't change our lives without changing ourselves, because if you are a water breather, you can't find life on land. So you have to be able to adapt and fit yourself into the life that you want. And I think this movement, we're learning to do that as a people. So continue using your imagination, continue using your identity as a form of liberation. And that goes my workshop. Again, my name is Shirmina Geneva. These are my contact information if you guys will ever want to hit me up or collab or anything like that. This was an amazing workshop. I thank you guys so much for participating. Again, thank you to the African American Museum.
Thank you all for your conversation, your poetry. I hope that you all are saving your poems too, adding them to your collection that's growing during this time. So we're going to transition into our closing meditation now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Jackson. I'm just so thankful that I was able to be a part of this. Thank you to Hannah, and thank you to Carolyn, as well as Shirmina. This was really awesome, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to be able to wrap us up. And I was kind of writing down some notes, kind of trying to change some of the things in the guided meditation. But so like I said, my name's Christina, and I have been meditating for the past 4 years. As part at first with a group called Many Faces Sangha here in West Philly. And now we've transitioned to being a virtual group. And so we meet every Thursday at 7:30 online on Zoom. And we also, for me, meditation has been, just going off of what everyone was saying, meditation for me has been about liberation from the start. And I look at it in many ways, like I practice in a Sangha community and a group community, but personally, meditation for me has been able to, what we say is bring myself home to myself, and remind myself of the peace and the freedom that I have, and just reconnect with my body, just through breath. So I really look at meditation as being a very needed recipe for past freedom fighters, future freedom fighters. We go through so much struggle, we go through so many things. And meditation for me and yoga helps to be able to bring me back to the sense of freedom on the level of my body. And so that's what it's been for me. And like I said, I could put my information in the chat if you all would like to meditate with me in different type of settings.
Mm-hmm.
So, so what I'd like to do is do a short guided meditation sit. First, kind of grounding us in our breath, and then leading, you know, just a couple mantras and words to help us support ourselves and bring us home in terms of what we learned. So, does that work with everybody? And everybody can hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great, wonderful. So first, what I'd like to do is open up with a bell. And we don't say ring the bell in my tradition, we say invite the bell, because it's, again, it's this reminder for us to breathe and to come back home to ourselves. So how we can kind of take all this good information and all these like creative things that we were able to do and kind of remind us of our center and we're home. So what I'll do is I'll ring the bell 3 times to open up our sit, and then I'll help us kind of get into a comfortable position. So I'd like everyone to get into a comfortable position. That could be sitting, that could be laying down, that could be in a chair, it could be on the floor, whichever position. And I'd like you to breathe in for a count of 4, and then breathe out for a count of 4. Breathe in for a count of 4. And breathe out for a count of 4. Some of us may want our eyes closed. Some of us may want our eyes open. That's all right. Some of us may want our hands, our palms to be face down. Some of us may want our palms to be faced up in a more receptive posture. And I want everyone to settle in. Take some deep breaths. And like I said, for me, liberation on one level is about recognizing our bodies and how we're feeling and how we store so much tension in these hidden places, and just letting ourselves go just a little bit deeper. We have the next few moments together. The to-do list can wait. And I want you to think about, what can liberation feel like in our bodies? Wiggling our toes, adjusting our shoulders, sitting up straight, allowing ourselves to take a breath. Sometimes when I sit, I like to invite ancestors in, or those we love that have passed, or previous freedom fighters, current freedom fighters. And to breathe. And if your mind wanders, that's okay. Just gently bring it back to the breath. What resonated for me today was our discussions about and the wonderful questions that Shirmina put forth about colonization, but also about sacrifice. How can we step into our identities and claim our own history in our bodies and who we are through our breath? Our breath carries us through all the challenging situations and future struggles that we have. No one can take our breath away. It's ours to have. For our last minute together, just take another deep breath in for a count of 4 or 5. And then out for another 4 or 5. And we give thanks for the African American Museum. We give thanks for the wonderful information that we've heard from Carolyn, as well as our I was trying to think of a good word, but the kind of creative stretching that we've done through poetry that Shirmina provided us for. We're grateful. And we'll close out by inviting the bell. And we can put our hands together if you feel so inclined and give each other a bow. Thank you all for participating. I appreciate this.
Thank you. That was so wonderful and fulfilling. Thank you again, Christina. All right, well, this is another wonderful session of Black August Weekly. Thank you all again for joining.